President, please be seated. The chamber is now back in session. Court officers, please bring in witness 2TCW 933 into the courtroom. President, good morning, Mr. Witness. What is your name? Answer. My name is Pon Thol. Question. What is your date of birth? Answer. I was born on the 16th of June 1950. Question. Where is your place of birth? Answer. It's in Rongern Sub-District, Svay Rieng District, Svay Rieng Province. Question. What about your current address? Answer. In 7 Makara, Laban Siet Sub-District, Banlung District and Ratanakiri Province. President, what about your current occupation? Answer. I am the district council member. Question. What are the names of your parents? My father's name is Mai Pon and my mother's name is Kao Sum. Question. What about the name of your wife and how many children do you have? Answer. My wife's name is Saum Chantu. We have 5 children. 2 of them passed away. Question. Mr. Witness, based on the greffier report, you had no relationship to the 2 accused, that is Mr. Nuon Chi and Khieu Sampon, and parties to this proceeding. Is that report correct? Answer. Yes, that is correct. Question. Have you already taken an oath before the Iron Club statue located to the east of this courtroom? Answer. Yes, I have already taken an oath. Question. Now we would like to inform you of your rights and obligation as a witness. Your rights. As a witness in the proceedings before the chamber, you may refuse to respond to any question or to make any comment which may incriminate you. That is your right against self-incrimination. About your obligations. As a witness in the proceedings before the chamber, you must respond to any questions by the bench or relevant parties, except where your response or comment to those questions may incriminate you, as the chamber has just informed you of your right as a witness. You must tell the truth that you have known, heard, seen, remembered, experienced, or observed directly about an event or occurrence relevant to the questions that the bench or parties pose to you. Mr. Witness, have you ever given your statement or interview to the OCIJ interviewers? And if you have given interviews, how many times it took place and where it took place? Answer. The first time took place at the re-education school of the Khmer Rouge. And the second place took place at my home. Question. So when did the two interviews take place? Answer. I do not remember the dates because it took place long time ago and I did not keep the record of that interview. Question. Before you came to testify today, have you already read or reviewed the statements that you provided during the interviews that you mentioned happened twice? Answer. Yes, I reviewed them already. President, thank you. Based on your recollections of your review, can you tell us whether the statements in that report correspond or consistent with what you provided during the interviews with the interviewers? That you said that it took place twice, once at the re-educational school and another one at your home. Answer. Yes, they were consistent. President, thank you. Based on Rule 91 bis of the ECCC, the chamber gives the floor to the co-prosecutor to put questions to this civil party before other parties. And the co-prosecutors and the lead co-lawyer have the combined sessions of 2 sessions. So the co-prosecutors, you may now proceed.
Good morning, Council, and good morning to you, Mr. Pontol. I want to start by asking you about your work at the rubber plantation that you mentioned in your statement to the OCIJ investigators. Can you tell us when you started working at that rubber plantation?
I worked as a worker at the rubber plantation since 1962.
And can you tell us the name of the plantation and where it was located?
The rubber plantation was located in Ratanakiri province.
You mentioned that you started working there in 1962, following 17 April 1975, when Phnom Penh was captured by the Khmer Rouge. Did you continue working at the rubber plantation after that date?
After 17 April 1975, the rubber plantation workers at the rubber plantation were dispersed.
I want to ask you about something in your OCIJ statement. This is document E3/5172. The English ERN is 00272585, Khmer 00189251, and French 00272592. And what you say on that page is, during 1975 to 1976, I worked as a rubber plantation worker again under the supervision of the Khmer Rouge. Is that correct? Did you continue to work at the rubber plantation in 1975 and 76 under the supervision of the Khmer Rouge?
But
Yes, that is correct. In late 1975, they established a union for workers to tape the rubber trees.
And during that period, during the Khmer Rouge period when you were working there, who supervised that rubber plantation?
The supervisor of the rubber plantation was Tum. He was the union chief in charge of supervising the rubber plantation.
You just mentioned that he was the union chief supervising the rubber plantation. Did he have any other positions that you're aware of at that time?
I
did not know whether he held any other positions. I only knew that he supervised the union in charge of growing rubber.
I want to go back again to your statement to the OCIJ investigators, and this is on the same page I just cited a moment ago. And what you said there was, quote, "The rubber plantation was supervised by Tum, a member of the zone committee, who was supervisor of the rubber plantation union," unquote. Does that refresh your memory? Did Tum have a position on the zone committee as well?
I
did not know any other position he held, but when I worked in the rubber plantation, I saw him came to distribute clothes and rice to the workers in the plantation.
Okay, and just so we're clear, in 1976, did he have any position in Division 801 or any other military formation that you're aware of?
But
at this point that you are talking about, I don't know. I have no idea.
Okay, thank you. I want to move to another topic now. I want to ask you about your marriage at that time. Can you tell us whether you were married when you were working at the rubber plantation?
I did not marry in the rubber plantation. My marriage took place in the Trapeang Chres cooperative in 1972.
But is it correct that you were still married at the time you were working in the rubber plantation in 1975 and 1976? Were you still married at that time?
No, my marriage took place only once. That was in Trapeang Chres cooperative in 1972.
Maybe I'm not asking the question correctly. I'm not talking about a wedding ceremony, but did you still have a wife in 1975 and 1976? Was your wife working with you at the rubber plantation during that time?
When I worked at the rubber plantation, yes, my wife was. I was still married with my wife.
And can you tell us what that wife's name was?
My wife's name is Muang Chandi.
And did you have any children, or was she pregnant at the time that you were both working at the rubber plantation?
When I worked at the rubber plantation, I did not have children yet, but in late 1976, I had one child, and later on, the child died.
Okay, are you still married to Mung Chandi?
After the Liberation Day, we got divorced, and I got married to another woman named Chantu.
And when was the last time that you spoke to Mung Chandi?
In 1986.
Okay, I want to turn now to the day of your arrest and transportation to Okansang prison. Can you describe the events of your arrest and your transportation to Okansang prison for the court in general terms?
On 16 June 1977, at around 7 o'clock in the morning, when I left for my work in the rubber plantation, the union chief called me at my work site, and he told me that I had to prepare my luggage to go to study at the re-educational school at Angka location. I told my wife also about this, so I prepared my luggage, including clothes and blankets and mosquito nets, and I embarked on the truck. And I had no idea at that time where the truck took me to. But Angka told me that I was sent to the re-educational school. President Mr. Pontol, please speak slower than this because your interview, your testimony is going through the interpretation into another language. So please speak slower so that the interpreter can catch up with the speed of your speaking. Thank you. So now you may continue.
Maybe I'll just jump in at this point. You mentioned that the union chief called you. Now, is that Tum, the union chief that you just told us about a minute ago? Is he the one who told you that you had to go to the re-education school?
No, it was not him. In each village, there was a village chief. Tum was in charge of supervising all the villages within the rubber plantation.
Okay, and you also just mentioned that the date of your arrest was 16 June 1977, if I heard correctly. Can you tell us how you're able to remember that date with such precision?
When I was arrested, I was sure about the exact date. When I got on the track, it was 16 June 1977 at 7 o'clock in the morning. I was sure about this exact date, and I can still remember until now.
Okay. Do you know who ordered your arrest and your being sent to Aukansang Re-Education School?
បាទសូមជម្រាបថាពេល
At that time, they did not tell us about who ordered us to be sent away. They used only one word. That was Anka require us to go to be educated.
And did you know then, or did you ever find out the reason that you had been arrested? What your alleged crime or misdeed was, if any?
សូមជម្រាបជូនថាពេលដែល
When I was arrested, I did not know whether I had any wrongdoing. Only when I arrived at Pol Pot's prison, they interrogated me and they told me that I had a specific wrongdoing. That's why I was arrested and taken to the prison.
And can you tell the court what your specific wrongdoing was according to what you were told?
As I said, when I was arrested, I had no idea what I did wrong. But when I was interrogated, they told me that they asked me whether I knew whether I committed anything wrong that I was brought to the prison. I told the interrogator that I did not do anything wrong and I did not do anything against the Anka. The interrogator asked me several times. And then finally, they told me the reason that I was arrested and brought to the re-education school was because I belonged to the upper class and I used art craft techniques to treat the rubber tree that had disease. And these techniques belong to the feudalist class. And it was not the techniques by the farmers class.
And you just mentioned something called, you said the aircraft techniques and the techniques of the feudalist class. Can you tell us specifically how the way you were treating the rubber plants was wrong in the view of Angkar as they explained it to you there?
បាទសូមជម្រាបថា
They did not say that I used the airplane, but they alleged me that I used the feudalist class technique. That was the modern technique. They said that the technique used by the farmer class were different. And they also asked me that They also asked me to elaborate on the alleged feudalist class techniques that I used. I told them that when the rubber tree had disease, we used grease and anthimocin that imported from foreign country, and we immersed them in the chisel used to tape one rubber tree before taping another. And they told me that this kind of techniques belong to the feudalist class, and this kind of techniques were not required. And that's why they sent me to be re-educated so that the techniques would be no longer used.
Okay. Were there any other people arrested along with you on that day?
ថ្ងៃទីមួយពេល
At the same time, on the same day, on the same track, I did not remember the specific number, but there were around 10 people who were transported by that Chinese gas truck.
And who were those other people who were transported? Not necessarily names, but their position or their job.
បាននិយាយរួមសិតតែ
They were all workers in the union.
And on the day that you were arrested, were you a soldier? Were you a member of Division 801, or were you a member of any other military division?
បាទខ្ញុំជាកម្ម
I was a worker in the union.
Okay. Did anything happen to your wife, Meng Chandi, at the time of your arrest?
បាទអត់មានអ្វីកើតឡើងនេះក្រោយពេលដែលចុះពីឡាននេះគេគាត់តែប្រាប់យើងថា
After there was nothing happened, after I disembarked the truck, they instructed me to walk straight, not to deviate the assigned route. Otherwise, we would be shot dead. And we walked straight into the building, and they put women in one building and the men in another building.
And was your wife one of the women who was arrested along with you?
បាទពេលទីមួយថ្ងៃទីមួយ
Yes, we were arrested on the same day, the same time.
Now, in your OCIJ statement, E3/5172, at English page 00272586, Khmer 00189252 through 53, and French 00272593. You say that your wife was pregnant at the time of her arrest, and that your daughter was born in prison before 1979. Is that correct?
បាទពេលដែលចាប់ទៅហ្នឹងគឺពោះហ្នឹងមិនតាន់
Yes, that's correct. But when we were arrested, she was only 1 or months pregnant, and she delivered the baby in the prison.
And did the baby survive in the prison until the end of the Khmer Rouge regime?
Answer. The baby survived the regime. Her name is Soldina, and her husband is working in the agricultural ministry, and we are living in a nearby house in the same village.
Okay. Can you tell us now about the where you were put? Describe the building you were put into. Tell us about whether you were shackled, you were tied. What were the initial conditions of your detention when you first arrived at Okansang?
Answer. After I had been arrested, at the time I was asked to disembark the truck. Women and men were asked to go to different places, and we were put in a house with a leaf roof, wooden wall. And when we arrived in the prison, the security guards took the chain and locked us in rows, and we were told to sleep quietly.
How many other prisoners were in the same room or the same building with you?
Answer. I do not remember how many of them, We were sleeping foot to foot, and there were 2 rows of prisoners in that room.
Okay, you mentioned a moment ago that the men and women were separated. Do you know where your pregnant wife was taken and what the conditions of her detention were when she first arrived at the prison?
Answer: we could see the buildings or houses from from one side to another, but I at the time did not receive any news from her.
Okay. I want to ask you now, I'll come back to many of the events that happened while you were there, but I want to ask you now about the leadership structure and the organization of the prison. And can you start by telling us the formal official name of what we're calling the Okansang Security Center? What was its official name?
The official name was the Re-Education School.
Do you know what unit or what organization was in charge of the Okansang Re-Education School?
It was supervised by Division 801 located in Vonsai district.
During your time there, did you learn who the commanding officer of Division 801 was?
I did not see the facial feature of that unit chief. And Sir Ryun was the commander of Division 801.
And what about the name of the chairman of the Okansang Re-Education School? Do you remember the name of the chairman?
I do not recall that person's surname. Sai was the supervisor of that security center, and below him was Chang, and then Tim.
There's been evidence in this case that the Sai's surname was Chaum. Does that refresh your memory in any way? Could his name have been Chaum Sai?
Answer: I do not recall his surname. I heard people call them Bong Sai, Bong Cham, and Bong Tim.
I asked you a bit earlier whether you were a member of Division 801, and you said that you were a rubber plantation union worker. Do you know why you, as someone who were not at that time a member of Division 801, was sent to that security center?
Answer: I was a member of a union, not member of 801. I was sent to that re-education school under the command of Division 801. Prisoners in that school of Division 801 were from different places. They were in different categories, namely ordinary people, soldiers, and other type of people.
Right, and I guess my question is, do you know why civilians, non-soldiers, were being imprisoned in this center that was under Division 801?
Answer: It was the decision of Anka. I have no idea why. I did not know why that they had been sent to that security center and what mistakes they committed. It was the initiative of the Anka. Um, a few and several people had been detained at that re-education school.
A moment ago, I think you mentioned that there were rubber union workers, members of Division 801, and then what you described as ordinary people. Can you tell us what you meant by ordinary people?
Answer: Ordinary people were those who were from villages and commune. This is what I meant. And soldiers were brought in from the border. Those ordinary people were from Lumphat and Vern.
Do you have any way of estimating how many prisoners there were detained at Okansang at the time you initially arrived there?
Regarding number of prisoners, I have no idea, since I was not allowed to walk freely, to move freely, and at the time my ankle was shackled.
Okay, I want to turn to another topic now, an incident you describe in your statement in which some Jarai tribespeople were brought to the Okansang Security Center. Can you describe for the court what you remember about that event?
Answer: I do not know about that. All I know is Jarai minority were a drop off in front of the house where I was locked in, and some Jarai minority were sent to other places.
And are you able to estimate how many of them in total were brought into the Okansang Security Center or re-education school?
I do not know about the number. I was not allowed to go close to their duty stations, and on some occasion I was not allowed to go close to other houses where prisoners were detained. I was only allowed to move in and out of the house where I was locked in.
How were you able to see these prisoners, these Jarai, who were dropped off, as you said, in front of the house where you were staying? How were you able to see them?
Answer: Houses where prisoners were detained were made from bamboo, the wall, I mean. We we were not allowed to get out of that house, but the hole or the cracks of the bamboo wall, we could, poke our hand out and we could see whatever things was going on at outside.
Okay, I wanna take you again to the statement you made to the OCIJ investigators, and this is from English page 0027 2587, Khmer 0018 9253, and French 0027 2594. And what you said about this was, quote, "These newly arrived prisoners were all Jarai tribesmen from along the border who had been arrested and brought in. There were about 100 of these prisoners," unquote. Do you recall why you indicated that the number was approximately 100?
Answer: it is my estimate. It is not the exact number that I could recall at the time.
And can you give us an idea of the composition of this group in terms of men, women, and children? Were there only men? Were there only women? Was it a mix of men and women? Were there children as well?
Answer: there were different type of people, men and women.
And what about children? Do you recall any children being part of the group?
Answer: there were toddlers and there were small babies.
What about pregnant women?
Answer: yes, there were also pregnant women.
How were these people dressed? What were they wearing?
Answer: they did not dress their traditional clothes. They wore old clothes with patches.
And the old clothes they wore with patches, can you describe what they looked like?
The clothes were dirty with patches, and those clothes were usually worn by the poor.
You've described this group of people as belonging to the Jarai ethnic group. How did you know that? How did you know they were Jarai?
Answer: the security guards talk about that.
Do you remember, I mean, can you just tell us as closely as you can recall what the security guards told you about this group of people? Not just their ethnicity, but anything else they told you?
Answer: I overheard that the night before they walked Jarai ethnic people, hundreds of them, and they took those Jarai minority out of 2 trucks. And those security guards even said that they did not sleep well last night, and they were so sleepy.
And when you say they didn't sleep well, you're referring to the security guards who didn't sleep well because they were busy transporting these people? Is that the correct understanding of what you've just said?
Answer: yes, those security guards. They were guarding prisoners at the time. There were too many prisoners coming in.
Do you know who brought the prisoners to the Okansang Re-Education Center?
Answer, I do not know about that. I saw those prisoners coming out of the trucks, and the security guards were sitting, watching and guarding.
Do you recall how long this group of Jarai prisoners remained at O Kanseng Re-Education Center?
Answer, I cannot recall the date. They were detained at the location for a brief period, and later on I no longer saw them, so I cannot tell you how long they were detained at the place.
Can you give us an estimate as whether it was a matter of hours, days, weeks?
Answer, less than 1 week.
And when they finally left or were taken away, did you see that? Did you see them leaving or being taken away?
Answer, I watched they living through the cracks of the wall. They were tied up in lines with the nylon strings, and then they were being walked away.
Who was it that was walking them away?
Answer, I do not recall their names. The security guards, the defense unit members, those who were working at the Open Security Center.
Did you learn what happened to this group of Jarai prisoners after they were taken away?
Answer, I do not know about that.
Now, in your OCIJ statement, you say that a few days after the prisoners were taken away, you were working in the jackfruit plantation nearby and you saw something. Do you recall that, and can you describe that for the court?
Answer, later on, 2 days later, I was assigned to work in the jackfruit plantation, and at that location I saw a grave. The grave under the palm trees. I saw blood. There were shoes, sandals, and I suspected that Jarai, minority people, had perhaps been killed at that place, and the soil there was swelling.
And can you tell us what it was in particular that made you assume that it was the Jarai who had been killed in that particular place?
Answer, I could recognize their clothing, traditional clothing. The clothing remained at the grave.
And just to be clear, are you saying that you saw the same kind of clothing at the gravesite that you had seen the Jarai wearing a few days before in front of the place where you were detained?
President, please hold on. Mr. Winner, you have the floor now, Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. President. I object to this question. It's leading the witness into saying something that he cannot confirm, because he just said that the alleged Jarai who were walked in had just old clothes. He just saw through the crack of the walls that they were wearing old clothes, usually worn by poor people. And now putting the suggestion that these are the same clothes is, first of all, unfounded, and secondly, asking the witness to speculate. So I object to this question.
Mr. President, I'll reformulate the question. You've just mentioned that there was something about the clothes that you saw in the jackfruit plantation that made you believe that that it was Jirai people that were buried there. What was it about the clothes that you saw at the jackfruit plantation that created this link with the Jirai prisoners in your mind?
Answer. The color of the clothes were in blue and in red, and the clothes were tattered, and I presumed that that same clothes were worn by those Jarai minority group at that place that they were detained or being walked out.
I want to ask you about another thing that you said in your OCIJ statement. This is at English page 0027, 2587, Khmer 0018, 9253 to 54, and French 0027, 2594. And what you said was, near that crater I saw blood, backpacks, native clothing, torches, and shoes. From those materials, I concluded that the bodies were Jirai, unquote. Can you tell us anything about these other things that you saw, the backpacks, torches, shoes, that led you to conclude that the bodies were Jirai?
Answer. The group whom have been taken away by the security guards were with backpacks.
Okay, you've told us some of the things you see. Did you see any bodies at that location? Any actual dead bodies?
Answer. At the rim of the grave, I did not see the dead body, but clothes with blood.
And again, I'll just go back to your OCIJ statement. This is English page, well, it's the page I just cited a moment ago. So right after you say, from those materials I concluded the bodies were Jirai and that they had been brought there to be killed, after that you say, quote, I saw corpses bloated and split open, unquote. Does that refresh your memory about seeing bodies in that location as well as these possessions?
Answer. Upon my arrival, I smelled the discomposed bodies in that grave, which was not fully covered. So it made me to believe that those people were killed and they died.
And can you tell us how far was that grave location from the house that you were normally imprisoned in? What was the distance?
Answer. It was about 1 kilometer away.
And was that within the bounds of the Okanseng Re-Education Center, or was it outside the Re-Education Center?
It was outside the compound of the Oakenside Security Center. Currently, that location is turned into blocks of brick houses, and we cannot know for sure where the exact location where the execution took place. That location was the land there, the soil there was cleared, and that place was turned into blocks of brick houses.
Okay, I'd like to move to another topic now. This again relates to the jackfruit plantation. You've told us about your experiences with the Jirai victims there. Do you recall ever seeing anyone else killed in the jackfruit plantation? And if so, can you describe the incident for us?
Answer: I am telling the truth now. I witnessed that. I was assigned to guard the jackfruits and not to allow people to get into that jackfruit plantation. While I was guarding, I was sitting on the jackfruit on a jackfruit tree from where I could see the actual killings which was happening.
And can you describe the killings that you witnessed from that position?
Answer: regarding that killing, most of those people were killed with the back of the hose, and then they were thrown into the trenches dug by former Lone Wolf soldiers.
You've said most of the people. Can you estimate how many people you saw being killed with hose in that location?
Answer: while I was sitting on a jackfruit, I could see 3 or 4 had been killed. Some people could not even walk. They were carried to that execution site, and then they were smashed and killed and buried in the grave.
And who were the perpetrators? Who was it that was carrying out these killings that you saw?
Answer: security guards at that the education center.
Do you know who the victims were, either by name, but if not by name, what category of prisoner they were?
Answer: I cannot recall the names. I was chained and locked in the house. We could not communicate with one another, and I at the time did not know where the prisoner, the inmates were from, and what did they do before.
Okay, thank you for that. Mr. President, I'm moving to a new topic now, so I don't know if it's a good time for the break or not.
President, thank you. It is now convenient time for lunch break. The chamber will take lunch break from now until 1:30. Court officer, please assist the witness during the lunch break, and please invite him back into the courtroom at 1:30. Security personnel are instructed to bring Kyew Sampon to the waiting room downstairs and have him return into the courtroom before 1:30. The court is now in recess.